Have you ever wondered why everything in the world is so cheap and how a phone gets to us from the other side of the planet? The reason is these engineering masterpieces that dominate the world's waters. I mean, the container giants. These ships are the main arteries of the global economy and truly flow like blood in the world's veins. Today, we're going to check out their biggest and coolest examples and see how they work and how much money they make. So much so that one is tempted to buy a container ship instead of a truck. The world's waterways serve as the main arteries of the global economy, and the colossal ships that travel these routes are like a bloodstream delivering goods to all corners of the world, making the story of the largest cargo ships from ancient times to today a very complex and exciting adventure. Of course, we know that humans have been traveling the seas and transporting cargo for thousands of years. For example, even in ancient Egypt, about 5,000 years ago, rudimentary boats were used to transport the colossal stones for the pyramids, which, well, could also be considered a type of early water freight carrier. But if we want to talk about ships that were designed only for cargo transport and had no other purpose, we need to go back to 1817 AD when the British started this. They built ships that could move goods between England and America and return. It's interesting to know that after the American Revolution, the British were hostile towards the US and didn't feel good about each other. But there was no choice because economically they couldn't separate, which is why these cargo ships were built. And we saw that despite all that enmity, their economies always worked together and remained dependent on each other. After this start by the British, other countries also saw what a cool idea it was, as they could send a lot of cargo to very distant places cheaply. And that's how cargo ships gradually became more advanced and turned into today's behemoths that have various types like oil tankers, refrigerated ships, and of course, container carriers. To transport anything from soft drinks to vacuum cleaners, a special container is necessary so the goods reach the customer safely, and the container plays exactly this role for large international transport, an invention that truly revolutionized the shipping industry. The fascinating idea of the container dates back to 1956. At that time, an American entrepreneur named Malcom McLean noticed how much cargo was being wasted and damaged during bulk shipping, and how much time was being lost. McLean decided to create a standardized container for these products to prevent all this waste, and after a short period and building a few prototypes, he finally concluded that he had invented today's containers, those large metal boxes we see everywhere now. This seemingly simple metal box that Malcom McLean built created a huge revolution in international shipping, and all shipping companies welcomed it warmly. Just imagine, you can put 2,000 vacuum cleaners in a sealed and locked container and send it from Japan to America and be sure it arrives safely. Before this invention, goods were usually placed on pallets on the ship, and half of them would get damaged or lost before reaching their destination. But with the arrival of containers, these problems were completely solved, and this efficiency made shipbuilders quickly think about building dedicated ships to carry these containers. When containers arrived, container ships were born. Ships that, thanks to these metal boxes, could carry 10 times the cargo of previous ships because containers were stacked like puzzles and locked together, allowing a huge number of them to be loaded on top of each other. Now let's go for one of the world's largest container ships, which belongs to the Taiwanese company Evergreen, and its name is Alot. This ship was completed in 2022, and at that time held the title of the world's largest container ship. The capacity of this monster is 24,004 TEU, 20-foot equivalent units. If we put it into perspective, that means it can carry over 24,000 20-foot containers, each about 20 feet long, which is really a mind-blowing number. The Alot, when fully loaded, weighs about 240,000 metric tons, which is like loading the weight of 24 Eiffel Towers, each weighing about 10,000 US, onto one ship. The builder of this giant is the large Chinese shipbuilding company CSSC, China State Shipbuilding Corporation, to whom Evergreen has ordered about 13 of these models, each costing around 150 million US. The Alot is about 1,312 feet long, roughly the length of 4 standard football fields, and 200 feet wide. The interesting part is that, due to its massive length and volume, it features 2 9-story control towers, one in the middle and one near the stern. so they can have enough visibility to control this monster, because the containers stack up almost completely surrounding them. When fully loaded, this ship weighs about 240,000 metric tons, which is like loading the weight of 24 Eiffel Towers, each weighing about 10,000 US tons, onto one ship. The builder of this giant is the large Chinese shipbuilding company CSSC, China State Shipbuilding Corporation, to whom Evergreen has ordered about 13 of these models, each costing around 150 million US dollars. The Alot is about 1,312 feet long, roughly the size of 4 standard American football fields, excluding the end zones, and 200 feet wide. The interesting point is that because of its immense length and volume, it has 2 control towers, one in the middle and one near the stern, so they can have enough visibility to control this monster as the containers stack up completely surrounding them. The engine of this sea monster, the Alot, is another giant, purchased from the Swiss company WinGD. It's called the WinGD 11X92B, which has 11 cylinders and produces about 75,000 horsepower, enabling the ship to move at a speed of 41 kilometers per hour. Now, let's move on to the second ship, the Jacques Saadé, which was also built by the same Chinese company, CSSC. However, its owner is the French company CMACGM, and this ship has one major difference. It runs on liquefied natural gas, LNG, which is a cleaner fuel. The Jacques Saadé, like the Alot, is 1,312 feet long and has a capacity of more than 23,000 TEU, exactly 23,112 TEU according to sources. But what makes this ship stronger than the Alot in a specific area is its higher deadweight capacity, capable of loading up to 369,000 US tons, or 335,000 metric tons, of heavy cargo. This French company had ordered 9 of these giants from the Chinese. Now let's go for the number 1, the world's largest container ship, the MSC Irina, which entered service just last year and was also built by the same Chinese company, CSSC, which with their speed and operational discipline have truly pushed out old rivals like South Korean and Japanese shipbuilders from the playing field. You might not believe it, but the Swiss company MSC ordered this ship in 2023 and took delivery in 2024, meaning the entire construction process for this monster took only 12 months, which is truly a record-breaking feat for such a massive structure. The MSC Irina can load 24,346 TEU, a capacity that currently places this ship and its sister vessels at the top rank of the world's largest container carriers. To better grasp this number, imagine that 24,346 standard 20-foot containers can be stacked into this ship. The length of this ship, like the other giants, is about 1,312 feet, and its width is 200 feet. And its engine is the same powerful WinGD 11X92B diesel engine, for which the Chinese received about $150 million from MSC for the construction of each ship in this MSC series. Now, the question is, how much is the charter cost for these giant ships, and how much do they work? Reliable sources like the Evergreen Company say that every time a large container ship loads up in China and heads towards Europe, it charges between $160 to $190 million in freight, which is really an astronomical amount of money and shows how profitable this trade is. A shipping service with these ships, for example from China to France, if it goes through the Suez Canal, takes between 30 to 40 days, which includes loading and unloading time. And this is while there are also a lot of peripheral costs, such as the transit fees for crucial waterways. Crucial waterways like the Suez or Panama canals don't sit idly by and charge a lot of money for ships to pass. For example, the Suez Canal collects between $400,000 to $700,000 depending on the ship's size, and the Panama Canal charges up to about $1.5 million for the largest vessels, which, despite these costs, is still very worthwhile for shipping companies because it drastically shortens their route. Another interesting and somewhat grim point about these ships is that none of these companies register their ships in their own country. For example, a French ship won't fly the flag of France because if it flew its home flag, it would have to comply with all of that country's labor laws, like wages and working hours, and their costs would skyrocket. For this reason, shipping companies register their ships in countries like Panama or Liberia to escape those labor laws, allowing them to easily hire their crew from cheaper countries like Bangladesh or India, work them for very long hours, and fire them without consequences. Which, well, is essentially a form of modern slavery at sea. The revolutionary container idea, proposed by the American Malcom McLean in 1956, came from a very simple thought. McLean, who was a truck driver, saw how difficult it was for workers to unload cargo from trucks piece by piece and then reload it onto ships, and he thought to himself, why don't we just put the whole trailer with its cargo right onto the ship? And this spark changed the history of transportation. He sold his trucking company in 1955, bought 2 old oil tankers, converted them, and built the first container ship, which he named the Ideal X, and in April 1956, it sailed from Port Newark in New Jersey towards Houston. One of the key questions about these metal giants is, how long do they live? On average, the operational lifespan of a large container ship is about 25 to 30 years. After this period, they either have to undergo extremely expensive refurbishments or they are sent to a location where their working life comes to an end. Do you know where these ships go to die? Most of these behemoths are sent for scrapping and component recycling to beaches like Chittagong, Bangladesh, or the coast of India. This process is called the breaker's yard, and because environmental and labor regulations are weaker there, this is done at a much lower cost, although it comes with a lot of environmental controversy. It's interesting to know that even though container ships are huge, their accident rate is lower compared to oil tankers or bulk carriers. But when they do collide, the scale is truly catastrophic. The most expensive maritime disaster in modern history, excluding warships, involved a container ship. We're talking about the Ever Given incident in 2021 that blocked the Suez Canal for about 6 days. This ship, which coincidentally also belonged to the Evergreen Company, was only 1,312 feet long, yet it caused approximately $9 billion in losses to global trade daily. This shows the immense impact a single ship can have on the entire world economy. Another interesting statistic is that, contrary to popular belief, most ship accidents don't happen in the open ocean. Instead, they occur in narrow waterways, near ports, and are often caused by human error or navigation system failures. That's why the 2 control towers on large ships like the Alot are designed for precise maneuvering in these very high-risk channels. Now we get to the very important part that shows where the economic power in the world lies, with the countries that build and assemble these sea giants. Just a few decades ago, the dominance of this industry belonged to the Japanese and South Koreans, but everything has changed now. Currently, China is undoubtedly the largest and fastest builder of container ships globally. The state-owned company CSSC, China State Shipbuilding Corporation, has virtually monopolized the market and is handling not only the 3 largest ships we mentioned, but also most of the new orders from major shipping lines. The reason for China's success isn't just low prices. They have incredible speed and operational discipline. For example, building the MSC Irina in just 14 months shows that no rival, not even powerful South Korean companies like Hyundai and Samsung, can compete with this pace. Another interesting point is that the components and engines for these ships are sourced from other countries. For instance, the beating heart of these monsters, the gigantic WinGD engines, comes from Switzerland, which demonstrates how global this trade is and how interdependent nations are. I hope you enjoyed this sea journey and the fascinating information. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell.